Bitcoin breaking out above $88,000, chopping around that zone. Altcoins starting to show signs, strong signs of reversals with some pretty great bullish price action. We've got to get into it today. And today, that means we get our pump song back. Everybody hit that like, hit that subscribe, ding the bell, retweet this on any of the different channels that you have over on Kellam. At Kelly Kellam on X or at Academy BitLab. We are going live here in just a moment, but we've got to get our vibes playing. We got to make sure that we can get in the right zone because it's feeling good.
Bitcoin, pump, altcoins, pump. I've been preparing for this. Can't nobody tell me nothing. Bitcoin, pump, altcoins, pump. I've been preparing for this. Can't nobody tell me nothing. Bitcoin, pump, altcoins, pump. I've been preparing for this. Can't nobody tell me nothing. Bitcoin, pump, altcoins, pump. I've been preparing for this. Can't nobody tell me nothing. SEC and its policies rely on whatever Gary thinks. Bitcoin's a flight to quality. I heard that from Larry Fink. Every hour losing purchasing power on foolish shelter. It's not our fault. Blame the cult. It's the political cowards. When it comes to gas, our purchasing power just got cut in half. I sit back and laugh, open my bag, fill it with stacks and sats. Bitcoin, pumping, altcoins, pumping. I've been preparing for this. Can't tell me nothing.
And I believe crypto will play that type of role as a flight to quality. We are hearing from clients around the world.
Bitcoin, pump, altcoins, pumping. I've been preparing for this.
And I believe crypto will play that type of role as
Bitcoin, pump, altcoin, pump.
we are hearing from clients around the world.
Can't nobody tell me nothing.
Crypto, depending on how you think about it. And I believe crypto will play that type of role as a
Can't
flight
nobody tell me nothing. Bitcoin, pump.
We are hearing from clients around the world.
Prepare for this.
What a day, what a great weekend from kicking it off incredibly Friday with some absolute magic entering my life all the way through a lazy Saturday, an incredible Sunday with family for Easter, only to come back over and realize that we got in the charts absolute carnage for the bears. We have the price action breaking out, and look at this green line that we have on the chart. We have the breakout of this descending. We can see right here, we have the breakout of the descending falling wedge here, a retest and a break of the high here. We're really testing that next level right here. If we can break through this zone, it is bye-bye bear time and welcome to the upside because we've got the reversal. We have the reversal pattern here with the lower lows starting to reverse, getting sort of rounded out. We have the bullish divergence on the chart here on the RSI and the price action, and we have a breakout of this area forming that move that may have this rejection, which we already have drawn on the chart from last week or the week before. So this will not scare me. The question is going to be on this next pullback, wherever it's from this zone right here at $88,000, $89,000, if we do get a pullback, do we still maintain for the first time a higher low setup? That would be the true shift in the winds in this market because we also see on the others chart, look at this. We got that rounding section right here, rounding pattern on the others. This is everything in crypto outside of the top 10. And what we're seeing right now, higher low already established. We're coming into a bit of a zone here. We can actually adjust this just a touch. Bit of a zone here where we have the horizontal level of resistance. That is all of this resistance, support, chop zone right in the middle, rejection at the top, rejection at the bottom, rejection at the top. And then we have a bounce within. We have a bounce right here. So we're coming into an important zone of the horizontal known level that we're watching, as well as this descending level of resistance. And we're right in that box right here that we had outlined way up here. Everything we're seeing right now is starting to look consistent with some really incredible price action to start pushing to the upside. We got 612 people in the room as it stands right now. I know we're going to have hundreds, if not a couple thousand more tune in here. We got Kevin Svensson on the show today. We got Matthew Highland on the show today. We got charts to break down. We have signals. We have so much bullishness going on. And my question to you is, have you been buying? Have you been stacking? Have you been sitting on the sidelines? Let me know in the live chat right now what you've been doing. Everybody has a different risk tolerance. Everybody has a different capital flow situation in their life. There are no wrong answers. There are no right answers. There's only you making decisions that are going to be best for your circumstances. So shout out to everybody that's here. I appreciate you. I love you all. Let me just go ahead. I'm just looking at the data here already. Okay. Just making sure everything's looking good on YouTube. Let me make sure we are live streaming on Rumble right now as well. We got Rumble live. We've got BitLab live. We got almost 500 people in Rumble. We're going to be live streaming here on a daily basis. Mondays, I'm live at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. Tuesday through Friday, it's basically the rest of the week. Tuesday through Friday, about 11:30, 11:40, 11:35, let's call it, Tuesdays through Fridays. We have great guests that come on. We break down the charts. We break down signals. We break down exactly what we're looking at so that we can make sure that we can help keep you on the right side of the trend so that you can make smart decisions in this market. We talk about price. We talk about data. It's not just, is the price this? The price is only a data point. So how does it look in relationship to other things on the chart? Because we've got some major signals brewing, and we've got to make sure that we are tuned in to everything that's going on, because we're seeing the price action right now. 2.76 trillion. Has this moved since? Let's go ahead and refresh. $2.75 trillion market cap. We're about 34 on the fear and greed index. We're seeing some movement across the board. Look at that. Stacks up 14%. Decentraland, I thought that was dead. But I mean, 10% move, almost 13% move on the week. Caspa is up 9%. How many of you hold Caspa? Let me know in the live chat. We also have Kaya up 16%, Fartcoin up 6.4%, Stellar. What kind of losers do we have today? We got just kind of mixed bag here, but large in part, we're looking in this market and we're still got a lot of room to go, because when you look at the altcoins, look at these dips, and these dips are all within the last 90 days. So there's a lot of room to be made up on a lot of these coins before it even starts to really, I mean, this is massive gains just to get back to the previous range high, right? And in some cases, some of the all-time highs, but we have a lot of room to cover on this market. And we've got a lot of things shaping up to make for the most bullish bull market we've ever seen. Now let's go ahead and look at some of these things, because we got Tom Lee coming out this morning. We're going to look at a couple stories. I'm going to break down some charts, and we got the chart master OGs. Kevin Svensson, I'll show you Kevin Svensson right here. And he just does the best charts. He's been in the game for a minute, friend of mine. We always love to have him coming on Monday. And then we got Matthew Hyland as well, another incredible analyst and chartist that's coming on. Look at that. Look at that beautiful breakout. Holy moly. But do you all notice this right here, this horizontal shelf? Why is this randomly on the chart? It's not random. You're identifying where there's been a lot of price memory of finding support, where buyers came in, lost. Sellers came in, rejection. Sellers came in, rejection. Now we're going up to that area right now. So while this feels good, this is not the end of the ball game for the bears. We still very well could push up. This could be a bull trap, and this could reverse and come all the way down and wreck so many people. Now, I think that's less likely with how much bullishness and the tailwinds of what's going on in this market. But looking at this, and we're going to have Matthew Hyland come on and discuss this in a bit. Just wanted to give you a heads up. This is bullish, but we got some work to do. So let's go ahead and go over a couple of the things. Tom Lee here talking about Bitcoin and gold, which I have been highlighting in the last couple of weeks with you all. About gold has been leading, and it has been a leading indicator in the past, similar to what we've seen with the global money supply. When you see a massive uptick in money, liquidity in markets, that tends to be a foreshadowing of what's to come, especially in risk assets. So let's go ahead and see what this gentleman's got to say, because I think this is great.
But now that deleveraging is done, I think that Bitcoin is going to catch up to gold, and Bitcoin's old high was over 110,000. So I think there is a lot of room to catch up as a sort of non-dollar asset.
As for the equity markets, you think stocks are attractive, but uncertainty is still the name of the game, and it's going to persist. So you think the high in the VIX, what did you say that was on April 7th, that holds?
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard to match that level of fear again. So I think we're probably past peak uncertainty. I mean, even with this Fed controversy, but I don't know if we're past maximum pain. You know, I think that there's still risk that the economic consequences are going to cause markets to be hesitant, but
And we're seeing that right now when we're looking, if we come back over here and we pull up the Dixie, this is the dollar breaking down. I actually just did a tweet on it earlier right before we went live. It's a rehash of a couple tweets I've put out over the last few weeks. This was April 11th. I was talking about the Bitcoin bullish divergence, talking about the dollar breaking down, talking about global money up and more pressure from exponential money printing. Also, the accumulation addresses stacking, whales stacking into this market. And then what do we see today? This is a follow through on that, the dollar breaking down. What does the dollar breaking down mean? Well, look at the little bubble I have outlined right here. Risk assets pump setup. In this case right now, we're seeing Bitcoin being the bellwether, running ahead of what we're seeing on the on the US, on the S&P 500. Still seeing a bit of a breakdown here. A bit of that question is, are we getting the decoupling? Well, the answer right now is, in this exact moment, yes, Bitcoin's pushing up, but the S&P 500 is pulling down. And this is why, although we are seeing Bitcoin looking like it's breaking out and feeling good, I would still urge a little caution. I'm stacked and I'm stacking. Anytime I have any dollars, I make myself as broke as possible by throwing it in the market because I'm a degen. You don't have to be a complete degen like me, and I don't recommend it. Because all of you need to make sure you have your rent, your finances, your mortgage, your house, your food, your family, your life, your wife, your husband, whatever it is. Make sure your life is in order. My life is in order. So I can go full degen because I also look at charts all day, every day. And if this drops, I just look at it as another buying opportunity. If you buy and the market drops and you're going to sell because of that, this isn't the market shape for you. You might want to wait until the price action has a couple daily or even a 3 daily close back up above this green zone right here. We're going to talk more about the price action here in just a little bit. Now, I just want to see, because this is the first day we're streaming over on Rumble. So shout out to everybody that's there. Got about 400 people in there. If you are following, hit that like button right there. Follow the account. Make sure you join us here. We're going to make sure we're on as many platforms as possible. We might be doing some special content for those that are on Rumble, but shout out to everybody that is here. We also shared this over on the Discover Crypto Twitter account. So shout out to anybody that's watching from that. If this is your first time here, by the way, welcome to the show. My name is Kellam, and I'm here to make sure that I can be your emotional support buddy in these markets. But beyond that, I want to give you data so you make decisions based on real data. I've been in these markets for roughly about 10 years and other markets before that. We got Kevin Svensson coming on in a bit. We got Matthew Hyland coming on in a bit. They've been through 3 cycles. We want to give you the areas that we have absolutely destroyed ourselves in the past, what we've learned from that, and make sure that you don't step in those same potholes so that you can make smart, cultured decisions that will benefit you on the aggregate over time so you can make money in this market. Because remember, this is not really about making money. I don't want to just have big numbers on my portfolio, which I have, and take a screenshot only to see it round trip. I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that the end of the day, my why is to make sure that I can have more free time in my future so I can help put my nephew through college, so I can buy my mom a house, so I can live a better life on my terms, not on the terms of whatever boss is out there or whatever I need to do for the government cheese and all. No, I'm here to change lives, mine, and hopefully if you're on this journey with me, we can change your life as well. But it's up to you. It's your decisions based on what you need for yourself. So let's get in here. Let's look at some of these things we got to talk about, because Caleb Franzen highlighted here, and this is the same zone I was just talking about, the 200-day moving average. The average of Bitcoin's price over a 200-day period, we are just now tackling potentially breaking through this. Now, what is that beyond just the 200-day moving average? That's also tackling this previous range high, which would truly start the shape of a changed trend. Because now we'd be making a new high out of this range. And then wherever this does pull back, then you start that shape of having a new higher high followed by a new higher low. That is what trend change is about. And we may, and I think it's a very, very overwhelmingly high likelihood that we are in process of this right now. So we got Kevin Svensson, so I'll have him go over this chart in a few minutes, but we are seeing the signals that have been forecasting this for quite a while and on repeat for what we've seen already this cycle. We'll go over that with him because he's waiting in the wings right now. But we also see the MACD, the LMACD actually, And looking at when these bullish crosses have happened, look at this. It wasn't the exact moment it broke out, but it was a great forecast of the shifting winds of where the momentum was going, whether it was bullish or bearish. In this case, we have a higher low on the MACD. We can see from right here, but we also have, which is a bit of a bullish divergence, but also the price action was flat here. And then we got that explosion out. Similarly right here, look, price action flat, MACD, the momentum started to really roll back over, crossed, gave it a little bump and tug, and then boom, breakout, 86%. Same thing again right here. Momentum to the downside, MACD's to the downside, crossover right here, kind of in the middle of this move, and then it just accelerated 72% to the upside. Same thing happened here, right in the middle of a 7-month downtrend that felt like maybe this is the top because the price action went a new all-time high before halving. This is not the same market cycles that you've looked at in the previous cycles. The historical trends may hold some things that it rhymes with, but we have an entirely different geoeconomic, geopolitical, and crypto empowered and focused landscape that we've never had, with trillions of dollars on the sideline, only now becoming aware that this is not only a viable asset class, this is an imperative asset class that not only individuals, but corporations, institutions, and governments now are realizing this is something you must have, not should we have it. And that these dominoes are falling quickly. And we're just now getting this bullish cross again. Are we about to see that next major leg to the upside? Let me know what you think in the live comments. Whether you're watching on Rumble, whether you're watching on X, whether you're watching here on YouTube, I can see your live comments. So let me know what you're thinking. What price point do you think Bitcoin is going to be at the end of May? And the question here is it sell in May and walk away, or is it stack in May and like enjoy the shit out of your profits later? I don't know. We're gonna have to see how this all plays out. Then this is that breakout. We can ignore that because we're going to be covering that. But this is the most important thing. We see big money players stacking. But this isn't super, this is, over quite a bit of time, because this is the 2 market cycle tops we had last time, right? 64, 69. But look at the absolute onslaught of just stackage like you wouldn't believe into this zone. But what is it looking like in the last couple weeks? This is what it's looking like in the last couple weeks. We're seeing, from basically December, this high, all the way on this bleed to the downside. What do we see? We see massive stacking to the upside here on whales, buying the weakness from people that don't have conviction. Beyond that, we see the flipping of the futures funding rates have flipped negative. Now, what does negative mean? If these go negative, it means the majority, we're getting that flip, okay, indicating increased demand for long positions. This is what I'm talking about. We're seeing data, not just the price doing what we want. We're seeing chart structure, but we're also seeing big money stacking. We're seeing bullish divergences. We're seeing the dollar break down, which is good for things like Bitcoin. We are seeing so many different things that are so bullish. Now, I don't want you to just go and wreck yourself because you go on a 47x long. I want you to be smart, but realize the data is lining up to be overwhelmingly more bullish than bearish. And then we got, I don't know what this one was. Oh yeah, the global M2. I had this posted from about a week ago, but we're seeing these the setup here it's not inconsequential. We got the money supply breaking to new all-time highs. We got the S&P 500 having broken down so much and Bitcoin holding up so beautifully against this. And then lastly, before we throw it over to our wonderful guests, Bitcoin price action since the bottom as it relates to the last 2 cycles. This is 2021 in orange. This is 2017 in yellow. We saw the deviation here where we had the sell-off. We had a bit of an impulse up, almost like it was like a perfect mirror of those deviations from the median line. And then what do we got? Price action very, very in line with each other here in terms of the percentage and where it's going from the cycle bottom to where we're at right now. So you could say that there's a bit of a deviation below, which makes sense because we have, the faster deviation up here on the 2021 cycle. Now, why is that important? Because looking at this, you realize the 2021 cycle actually ran up faster than it quote unquote should have. It ran up faster than what you saw in 2017. However, you see this maybe also more understandable why we got this double top, because this did break down and then rise again, having the all-time high almost on the same date. If you count the number of days from the cycle bottom. So where it stands right now is, I think we're entirely perfectly on course. I think there's so much data that we can unpack, but I want to get some other thoughts, some other minds. We got Matthew Hyland and Kevin Svensson here. Let me assign them their roles. Guest 1, guest 2, guest 4 for your screen, guest 5 for that screen. And we got our boys, Mr. Kevin Svensson, Matthew Hyland. We're back at it, baby. We got the markets.
We're back.
What's
up, Kelly?
Yeah, what's up, man? I missed last week by accident, so I apologize for that. But thanks for having me on, of course. Yeah, I guess I'll just take it away.
Take it away.
Very interesting day today with the S&P being down, Bitcoin's up, gold is up. So gold and Bitcoin are up a similar amount today. It seems like Bitcoin is starting to behave a little differently. There's been more, I guess, evidence of a discorrelation between Bitcoin and the stock market this year than most years. So it's great to see some of the biggest red days that the S&P has seen. Bitcoin is able to maintain its price and sort of just not dump. Didn't necessarily pump, but it just didn't dump. So what Larry Fink said about Bitcoin, I don't know, maybe it was around the ETF time when Larry Fink was saying that he believes Bitcoin is a bet against optimism, which clearly has not been the case for all of history for Bitcoin. Bitcoin has not been a bet against optimism in terms of market direction or something like that, right? Bitcoin is always correlating in terms of the direction. But now that BlackRock has stepped in, and I think they've sort of just like waved their wand and placed their narrative on Bitcoin, I think they're actually trying to make Bitcoin truly a digital gold. And so we're starting to see Bitcoin kind of acting like a safe haven, at least not dumping with the stock market. So that's great to see. It's something that, I think it's going to take a long time for Bitcoin to truly decouple, but at least we're getting the little rumblings of it now. So obviously a long-term event, but I've been looking at, today, looking at the charts here. I don't know if you can pull that up. This chart here, Bitcoin's weekly. We have the weekly RSI, the weekly MACD, and the weekly stochastic RSI. One of my members today in my Discord brought this up, the stochastics crossing up. And, this is a very similar setup. It looks like a continuation setup. If you go back to September of 2023, a very similar style thing where we have a pullback or sideways move. Weekly RSI breaks out. The MACD shows that the bears are losing momentum here. Bearish pressure is waning, and the stochastics cross up. Similar to right here, September 2024, RSI breaks out. MACD shows the bearish pressure is waning, and the stochastics cross up. And you only get a couple of these a year, the stochastic cross ups, and also RSI breakouts, only 1 or 2 a year. And we have one now. We have a weekly RSI breakout. We have the MACD showing that the bearish pressure is waning, and the stochastic RSI on the weekly has crossed up. So the setup right now across these weekly indicators is really, really, really strong. It's making the probability of the creation of an uptrend or a bullish pivot. The probability is now pretty high. And I noticed today when the prices broke out, or I guess last night or whatever you want to call it, a lot of people were like, "Oh, what's the news? What's the news? Did Trump say something?" Blah, blah, blah. And really there was nothing necessarily there. I mean, the futures were down, the S&P is down, but Bitcoin's up. It's simply that demand is outweighing supply. I think it's just as simple as that. We just got to a point where we just had enough seller, we have seller exhaustion. There's been enough of a correction, and there's just more demand than there is for supply.
Do you think that what I appreciated about the move yesterday was it kind of happened right at about the options open, a little bit after actually. And it wasn't like a run up to it. Do you think it was in response to some of the, it just feels like, Bitcoin's kind of standing on its own 2 feet right now, which is interesting with a very tight correlation that has happened directionally. And Bitcoin's kind of, I don't want to front run it, but it feels like it's starting to stand alone in this risk narrative where it's kind of a risk asset, but it's kind of also has a good number of people that are, you know, layering into Bitcoin as a hedge against risk. So there's almost like this inner battle going on within Bitcoin, which makes it kind of hard to predict what the price is going to do but it's so damn exciting to see where we're at right now on this stage.
It is. I was looking at this earlier, and it's true. Like what you just said is very accurate. Where Bitcoin is usually not directionally decoupling from the S&P. It's usually in the same direction. But if you go to the daily chart and you look at, let's remove these drawings here, and you look at Bitcoin, the S&P, you can see, well, they've been directionally correlated. And even like this dump right here that we saw, this pullback here, there's too many drawings on the screen, but you guys see right there, Bitcoin follows on that pullback. The first day it held and did not follow the S&P and then follows and then bounces with the S&P. But then recently we've seen the S&P pull back. Bitcoin pretty much doesn't, just sort of sits there, breaks out. And I think you're right about that. It's sort of a clash between narratives. It's like Bitcoin is just a speculation vehicle, and now we have influence from BlackRock and others who see it as a bet against optimism in their own words, which is kind of like gold, right? That's kind of what they're going for, I think. Bitcoin as an instrument, digital gold. So, yeah, I mean, that's, I just agree with the way that you put that. It's a clash right now.
Yeah, I love it. What do you see in Matthew?
It's definitely interesting. It's something we actually saw back in 2020, at the bottom. If you look over here, I put it on the left side. I can't like flip it, but the left side is the current chart 2025, and this is 2020. If you go back here, Bitcoin bottomed March 13th of 2020, but the stock market continued to go down. So Bitcoin was going up at that point. Bitcoin was pushing. I could box this out. Bitcoin was pushing up during this time period, and the stock market was continuing down. So it's very similar in that sense. It took a very small sample size of where we had the stock market just completely tanking downward. Bitcoin was going up, and now we're seeing that so far over the past probably the same amount of days, right? It's been like 10 days at least, I would think, since the bottom. That was on April 8th or April 7th. So it's been about 2 weeks actually. So around 14 days approximately. We'll have to see what the stock market does. Let me remove a lot of this stuff. The main area that you want to watch really for Bitcoin at this point is 89,000 or 88.8K to be precise. That's the main area of resistance up here. I think a lot of confidence would come back to the market as a whole, and then especially for Bitcoin, if it were to reclaim this area of resistance up here on the weekly time frame. That's the main area to watch. If we look at the stock market right now, though, the stock market at support. So either the stock market here is either going to find a bounce and then continue up, or it's going to break lower and then probably at least come close to the lows. It does have some support down here. This is the S&P 500. This is around 49.70. But this was the area I thought when we were up here, if we were going to get a pullback, it would come down to this resistance or support area. If you use the fibs, I think this was also around the fib target or close to it. So close to the 0.618. This area made sense for the S&P 500 to come back to. It had its biggest move or one of its biggest days ever. It had that big 10% day. So to see it like retrace this is not major. But if it starts to lose the support and obviously it starts breaking lower, then it's a different story. But to see it pull back after such a large move is not something too crazy or out of the picture, right? So, and then for Bitcoin, I think you retweeted this last night. We had that, I posted a bullish divergence. If you remember, Kelly, it was right here. We had this 4-hour bullish divergence confirmed. And that was the first bullish divergence we've had since this sideways structure kind of started. So we got this move up, found some resistance here. I would say you want to see this continue to push through at this point. If it comes back, let me see where the support would be. It's probably, the main support is probably right back here around 86.5K. So this is the area to watch. We'll see if it can bounce here and then continue upward and break through this resistance area right here. Obviously, no one knows what's going to happen, but it is interesting, right? Bitcoin moving up, the stock market moving down. And I think it's just, Bitcoin runs 24/7. So the selling pressure, or it usually just sells off faster. It just sells off sooner than the stock market. The equities just take more time. They don't run 24/7. They run a few hours every day. So it's just something where I think Bitcoin just has had a history of doing this overall. So I wouldn't say it's decoupled, or it's not correlated with the stock market on the bigger time frame. It's certainly been uncorrelated the past few days, but that's definitely like not enough of a sample size. I think if the stock market starts to rally upward, I think Bitcoin would too. I don't think Bitcoin would then go down or something. I
Yeah.
think
No,
you
I
can
was gonna
go.
say no. I agree with that. And the other thing that everybody's also wondering is, looking at the altcoin market, others is starting to. I mean, we're still in this downtrend of this, this basically descending channel, but it's starting to look like it may, and this I feel like is still a little hopeful. It may be starting to form a bit of, a bit of a rounding bottom here, and this is that important zone I'm watching on the others chart, which is for anybody that's tuned in. If you don't know what others is. It's not a coin. It's every coin outside of the top 10 market cap. So this is an index of basically generally how the alts are doing outside of Ethereum and Cardano and Solana, BNB, all that kind of stuff, all the smaller coins. And this is that zone I'm watching, is breaking out of not only this descending resistance, but also this horizontal box of both resistance and support across. This will be kind of, if we get above this and find some support, that would be truly the start of some probably pretty nice move in the markets. We're still seeing Ethereum. This is exciting, but it's still just, all it is doing is currently stair step, stair step, stair step. There's a lot of work to be done on Ethereum to get some bullishness, because you see this on the ETH to Bitcoin pairing too, just breaking, just continuing to melt to the downside. But then you see other coins. Like I moved pretty big into Tau last week. I moved into Tau on this retrace, BitTensor, on the retrace right here onto the 382. Saw this basically doji spinning top candle, and I got in basically right here. If that's on the daily, let's go to the 4 hour. I got in basically right here in the market. It was a pretty good buy, because that move right there, that did a 45% pump from there so far. Now currently with a small pullback, 30%. And I wouldn't mind if this came a bit lower down and retested this basically 300, 290 zone. And for me, I would probably stack more, because I'm of the opinion that we're starting to see a little bit of a market reversal, but there's still some pain. Aerodrome's not really making the move yet. We got a breakout. Yes. Very easy rejection here, which doesn't give me a lot of confidence in the super near term. We got Render breaking out, but also very similar like we saw in Tau coming down. I'm watching for this neckline here. Are there any coins that you guys are looking at outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum? Give us some magic.
Last night, me and Matthew were actually looking at Aerodrome, because we saw how far down it's come, and it's critical infrastructure for base chain, and people have been talking about the potential of a base ecosystem season, kind of like Solana or something like that, right? They see a lot of potential there for it, and if that is the case, Aerodrome is at an insane discount right now, and so it's something that I think it's. We actually added some yesterday. I think both of us did, but that's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
one. Yeah.
yeah. Arrows. We can look at Arrows chart.
But yeah, I was just
Arrows.
looking at the others chart here, because you just had it up. So all the coins outside the top 10, and if you take your steepest part of this run up here, like the flagpole, and you place it on your breakout zone, it lines up with that next high that we saw. And then if you take this steepest part of this run, and place it on the potential breakout zone, that gives you a target of just above the previous all-time high. So it's kind of like this long, drawn-out. I don't even know if you could call it a bull flag necessarily, but
It's more of a falling channel. Yeah.
yeah, the breakout zone would be somewhere around the previous trend line, which would give us a run to, a possible new high, which it doesn't look like much because it's from here to just a slightly new high, but from current levels. I mean, that's 160, 170%. That's a pretty good gain for the overall index for all the coins outside the top 10, 160%. That means some of the lower caps are doing more than that, double, triple that, or whatever. So there is a lot of upside potential for low cap alts, even though, of course, risk on assets, one big thing to keep in mind, the Russell 2000 has lost all of its gains. The low cap stocks are also kind of just crappy right now, right? They've come back to 2023 levels, just like a lot of the altcoins. So it's a bad environment for risk on, but we might start to see that change as we get closer to, the Fed cutting rates. So I think the market may be a little bit forward looking, moving like as we move along here. If you look at 2023, the markets ran up into the pause, the rate hike pause. And so now I think markets may begin to move up into a cut. And then when the cut comes, the market kind of just sits there, and all the movement happened before the cut. Just like usual, the market's forward looking, it's usually pricing things in. And so I think we're starting to see a little bit of that begin, kind of like what Matthew was saying, Bitcoin leading the S&P on the bounce, similar to COVID. Bitcoin's kind of getting that breakout now. The S&P is still struggling, but likely will find some sort of support in this range and bounce. And Bitcoin and the S&P will continue to correlate, but Bitcoin's just leading the bounce, I think, right now for the stock market, which is very common. Bitcoin usually leads tops, leads bottoms. For the S&P is more risk on assets. So, that's what I'm looking at right now.
What about you, Mr. Highland?
Let's see. I'm looking at the ETH BTC. I just want to take a look at this. Yeah, at this point, this is probably going down to the lows. But Kevin made a good point about the parabola, the inverse parabola.
Oh wait, hold on. Let me explain that, because it's kind of funny. If you look at the Ethereum to Bitcoin pair, right? I was saying that there's an inverse parabola, and in the definition of a parabolic trend, the word unsustainable is in the definition of a parabolic trend. It is an unsustainable trend, although it usually gets very extreme. That's why it's unsustainable. And so, like, parabolas to the upside, eventually you trade out of it, you come down. And I was saying that Ethereum's inverse parabola, if it maintains this trajectory, it's going to literally go to zero by the middle of the summer. So it's not going to be able to sustain this. It's not going to zero. We can joke about it all we want that it's going to zero, but it's not going to zero. So it's at the point now where, there could be a little bit more extreme movement here, but it's at the point of unsustainability, and it will exit this downtrend. It's going to. It has to. So it's gotten really far, but it's got to pivot soon, because it's not going to literally go to zero. But if we maintain this trend, it would be at zero by August. So from here to August, there's going to be some sort of major shift in the Ethereum to Bitcoin pair. That is a looming event in the next coming months. So I think that I just thought that was
on that point, when people they think that Ethereum is so doomed. This is put out by Discover Crypto, or I think it was today or a couple days ago. Tell me more about how ETH is dead. And look at this. This is a top inflows. Ethereum is just dominating right now. And this might also be a response to how much confusion there's been in the market, where there were a lot of outflows. And now, people are looking at the data, and you realize it's, dominates the DeFi sector. It dominates, the L1, L2 sectors. There's been a lot of development across other chains, notably, if we really make this larger, Base, Arbitrum, Barachain, kind of came out of nowhere. Sonic, the new FTM, Optimism, Starknet, Polygon, Avalanche. There's so many different chains out there that are doing a lot of incredible things. But Ethereum, it's just, I feel like
That's
it's
a good
more
chart
like it's
for
off.
Arrow.
It's off people's radar. You know what I mean? And I think it's gonna shock. I do think it's gonna shock.
My theory, or not theory, I think Ethereum needs a catalyst, obviously, like a big catalyst. And probably that catalyst is just, we discussed in the past, it's everything getting tokenized on Ethereum, because it's probably the likeliest chain for that to happen. And if that were to happen, you're talking like trillions of dollars worth of assets getting moved onto Ethereum. But it just hasn't happened yet. So Ethereum doesn't have a catalyst currently, and there's nothing. I'm not going to say nothing, but like really since 2020, what's been built on Ethereum? I mean, we had the DeFi stuff in summer of 2020. Since then, like there hasn't been anything, groundbreaking really, that's been built on Ethereum that has like excited people. I mean, there was the NFT stuff, but that was also from last cycle. It's been like L2s being built, but what's being built on those L2s, like we haven't seen anything major. So I think Ethereum needs a catalyst. I also think that in retrospect, right, I thought the Ethereum ETF was going to be helping it, or at least bullish for it. And I was dead wrong, right? Completely wrong. I thought the Ethereum ETF would at least help it, or at least make it at least go sideways, but not completely nuke. I think maybe if the Ethereum ETF maybe is being used as a hedge against the Bitcoin ETF. I'm not the best at explaining how, but if you just ask like ChatGPT and just say, hey, can you use the Ethereum ETF as a hedge against the Bitcoin ETF? And you can. There's multiple ways to do it. So there's that could be what's happening currently with Ethereum. Like maybe Ethereum is being used as a tool to hedge the Bitcoin risk. So like when Bitcoin goes down, or when Bitcoin's going up, Ethereum is being used, as like a short kind of or like let's say Bitcoin goes up a lot, short Ethereum to kind of lock in your Bitcoin gains and whatnot. So and that's common. That's common in all markets. There's you have one stock or something, but then you have another stock that you kind of view it as a hedge. So you do the opposite, short it. So that could be what has been going on with Ethereum. But inversely, maybe that will eventually change, and then if Bitcoin reaches a super high price at some point this cycle, then maybe people start using Ethereum as like the long, and then Bitcoin as the hedge at some point. As Bitcoin goes down or something. So things can always change. Let's see. I want to see where the S&P 500 is currently. Let me see. I want to see if we're getting a bounce here or breaking below this. Currently breaking below this support, it looks like, slightly below this. So we'll see if this ends up bouncing here or not. Yeah, it definitely is interesting though. This daily candle, it's down 3% today. So, and the VIX is currently finding a bounce here off of this support level. I think what Tom Lee was saying, that the VIX probably reached its high. I was watching that clip before I came on, or you were streaming it, but I was watching that. Yeah, the VIX probably got up to its high. This is where it got to back here as well. But yeah, the overall uncertainty still. I honestly think, like in terms of like the rate cuts and stuff in QT ending, I think with inflation going down, I think it's likely that the tariff stuff. I think there's a decent chance now the tariff stuff ends before the next FOMC meeting on May 7th. And the reason why I say that is because with inflation coming down, and that being like the main thing that Jerome Powell is currently focusing on, he's worried that inflation is going to go back up with the tariffs. If the idea is that they wanted to get inflation down to 2%, which they've been unable to do for a few years now, it hasn't reached 2%, and it looks like based on true-flation and then the CPI read coming in at 2.4%, PPI coming in lower, inflation probably is going to reach 2% probably at the May or June update. Yeah, I'm loading this up as well. Actually, you could just leave it right there. I think if they were trying to get Powell into a position, if let's say they resolve the tariffs and say like the tariffs have been solved or resolved or whatever, then he wouldn't be able to lean on that the tariffs are going to lead to inflation, which they actually haven't. I mean, so far anyway. If you look at inflation, I think demand, to me, it looks like demand's crashing. And it's not the first time Powell's been wrong about inflation. All of 2021, he kept saying that inflation was going to be transitory. He didn't expect high inflation at that time, and he was wrong. But there's also an idea too that he was only saying that because if he went out there and told everyone that inflation was going to come, if inflation was going to be very high in the future, it would accelerate inflation, because if people expect prices to go up, then they're going to go out and buy stuff, which would accelerate the pace essentially of inflation. So it's also possible he's playing those type of mind games, or whatever you want to call it right now, where inflation is going down. He sees that inflation is crashing. So rather than telling people, yes, inflation is crashing, he's telling them the opposite, that inflation is going to go back up, because he wants people to spend to slow down the crash. Because if inflation goes below 2%, you could look it up on ChatGPT, which is a great tool. If you ask ChatGPT, if inflation is at 1.5%, what can it lead to? And it can lead to a whole lot of problems. It could lead to a slowdown, a recession, everything else. So it's possible Powell is doing like the opposite of what he did in 2021, where in 2021 he was telling people that he didn't really expect high inflation, even though he probably knew it was coming. And now with inflation crashing, he's telling people that he expects inflation to go back up. And he's probably saying that to fight the inflation crash that's currently going on, which started to really, if you look at that chart, around December, January, it's just been nosediving downward. So that's like
Yeah,
the thing to
but
watch
so what
over
do
the
you?
coming months.
But what do you make? One of the things we have to consider. I saw a post from Nick from Coin Bureau, the Coin Bureau team, and he was talking about important things to consider. And it feels like, guys, it feels like such a stressful proposition to even potentially track what the hell is going on right now. Because I'm looking at price action, and then I'm looking at chart formations. Cool. Then we're looking at the dollar. Okay, cool. The dollar's breaking down. But then we're looking at on-chain data with whales stacking. But then we have to contend with what's going on with the tariffs and how Trump's going to tweet and what he's going to tweet today and how those things are going on. But then beyond all that, we also have pretty big dates coming up, throughout this week into May, also with different earnings reports, with different PCE data, with CPI data. And it feels like, on the one hand, there's an underlying overwhelmingly excited bull that's ready to just get set free and rampage. But at the same time, it's like everything feels like it's like walking on a wire while you're holding two buckets of cement on both sides, and if you take one misstep, or our government does, or corporations' earnings, it feels like things could cascade in either direction. So how are you making sense of that, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I think we kind of talked about this on the Mario Nafal's roundtable discussion on the Twitter Spaces. That in this environment where things are so uncertain and there's no clear narrative, is it bullish? Is it bearish? It's not really. There's no major bullish narrative. There's no major bearish narrative. I mean, you can come up with certain ones, but there's no overwhelming anything in either direction right now. And so, how am I making sense of this? I mean, I'm just expecting a mean reverting market, a trader's market, something where you don't really sustain. There can be violent swings up and down. You don't really have you have major volatility with no significant change in price by the end of it. And so I think that's what we're going to get. Like today, you even saw Bitcoin, what did it hit? Like 88 point, whatever, 6, 7. And then it dumps to 86.3. It's just, there's just a lot of volatility. And I think you're going to see that on larger time scales as well, not just in the very short term. So I think it's going to be basically based on what all the factors that you just laid out. It's going to be difficult for the market to just be confident with all these changes and these weird things coming into the mix, and Trump saying this and China saying that and the Fed saying this, but then Powell and Trump are butting heads. How is that supposed to inspire confidence? It really doesn't. So it's going to be difficult to sustain a perfect up-only trend. It's unlikely. Doesn't mean you can't go up violently, huge swings up, but it just may not be sustained in some sort of a post-recession up-only format like we've seen.
On that note, I think I'll pull up my chart here. On that note, I think we're going to continue seeing, different variations of these structures that we've seen so far. Because I think this was kind of this part of the cycle, I think, is the start of similar types of formations of the new shape of what we're going to see in the bull market in Bitcoin. And then therefore what we're going to see In altcoins, I think is anybody's guess because so much liquidity interest is in Bitcoin right now on an institutional and international government level. The buying pressures that are going to come in there, I think, are going to change how, you know, that typical money flow rotation that we saw. Bitcoin, then ETH, then top caps, then mid caps, and memes. We've already seen that that's broken this cycle with memes having their own damn cycles on their own, and the altcoin market basically nearly having 2 full round trips since the beginning of last year into now. And when we look at Bitcoin, I think we are going to see, this was kind of that first test bed with a 7-month, a near all-time high 7-month. I mean, we broke previous all-time high and had a 7-month sideways price action only to go higher. And now have basically, it's kind of a bull flag, kind of not, falling wedge here with all indications that we're going to see that next leg to the upside. But there's so much money and liquidity and interest now. And the fact that the world is waking up to Bitcoin has a fixed total cap of 21 million coins, and everybody's just now starting to realize that, and the race is on to stack. I do think we're going to get that sort of, you know, the move up, the breakdown, the move up sideways for 5 months, a scary move down, and then continue up to the upside, and then chop, and then scary. But I think we're going to be building stair steps probably all the way in through, if I had to guess, I think we're going to break everybody's idea. All models are broken on the 4-year cycle. I think we're going to see a sort of sustained stair-stepping pattern all the way probably through 2026. The question is going to be, at what point do we get a local potential top, and what sort of pullback do we get?
Yeah, it's interesting how this cycle so far has literally just been a stair step. I don't have all the support and resistance drawn out here, but like, this resistance, new support. The ETF rejection, new support. 2024 rejection, new support. It's actually just, it's quite literally a stair step. The whole cycle, you have all these people giving their opinions, what they think, but what is Bitcoin actually doing? It's just stair stepping. And so that is a great point that you just brought up. It's likely, however long it may take to actually get that next stair step up. I'm not trying to say it's a straight line or anything, but you get the point. It's just a visual representation. Bitcoin is actually doing quite well from the macro scale. And I'm not sure about the timing of you were saying through 2026, maybe. I do think the cycles are changing though. That I do agree with. I do think that we're just seeing too many changes right now to think that it's just going to be the same old story. The same old story, like when we analyze Bitcoin going back to, 2011, 2012, and then we look at each cycle and how it's so methodical and how it just keeps doing the same thing. That was in a very different market regime, right? Like everything is sort of flipped on its head now. So I don't think we can be too reliant on past cycles exactly. I think there will always be a rhyme and a mimic in certain aspects, but I think that people are just going to continue to be surprised. I mean, there's just too many changes taking place right now that I don't think it's going to be anything traditional,
Yeah, I hear that. And I see Dave Middleton asked if we could look at the Pi Cycle top indicator. Here you go. And essentially what you're seeing here, everybody, if this is the first time you're seeing it, it's pretty basic, but it's been pretty spot on. The 350-day moving average times 2, so basically 700-day moving average, and the 111-day moving average, when they cross, it's marked pretty much about when the top has been on the cycle. Now, of course, this was the top, but this was kind of an interesting scenario last cycle. But we have, a lot of space between these. There would be a lot of upside price action before these would potentially cross. As you see here, this is about the same width that we see right here. And this went from, was this about, 13,000 all the way up to 69,000 before we got those crosses. So, but there's a number of different indicators that are not suggesting, the MVRV Z score, the market value to realized value, and the spread. Let me click 7 times so it loads. There we go. But this is nowhere near a large spike like you'd expect. Even if it's a lower spike than this, I'm not seeing anything that has indicated we've gotten that supreme overheatedness in the market. The reserve risk, also another one of my favorite on-chain data tools. This is basically what you're looking at here is the different types of holders. I think it's the 1 week and I think it's the 1 week and the longer term holders, kind of basically you're looking at the difference between short and long term. And this is nowhere even remotely near showing that we've had a super influx, which really the most basic way to describe this, reserve risk indicator helps you identify, especially if you're getting a lot of newer term, shorter term, new retail coming into the market, which we have not seen this cycle. What are your thoughts on that, Matthew? One of the things we have not yet seen in this cycle, it feels like it's been very institutionally driven because we haven't seen a whole boatload of new adopters coming in. We've seen some, but the money and the price action has really been driven by larger players or stronger endeavored players in the space that have been around. We haven't had that retail flood yet. Do you think we're going to get it? And if so, what price point do you think we get that flood? Is it post 110? Is it post 150? Or are we not going to get it this cycle?
No, I do think that we will. We definitely haven't by like a social media engagement standpoint. I mean, compared to 2021, I'm sure you guys can like relate. Like the numbers, just the amount of engagement, people following you, etc. There were so many new people coming into this space during that time, and I haven't seen anything like that since then. It's just been kind of like it slowly started to tick up, I'd say, around the ETF time last year, but it's just the engagement hasn't been the same. But I do think that it probably will come at some point, but it's just I don't know. It's definitely like you were saying before, the cycles have been different. It's interesting too. Like last cycle, a lot of people thought we would start to see lengthening cycles. I think Benjamin Cohen had discussed that a lot back then, lengthening cycles, and we didn't see that during that time period. But who knows? Like maybe it is possible. Maybe that is something that ends up coming into play, or that the cycles have changed. We haven't seen enough evidence yet. But if you look at like Ethereum, for example, Ethereum's definitely in a completely different cycle. Even if it were to rally out of this at this point and then make new highs above 4,000, I would strongly argue that it's been in a bear market now for the past year. If I go to the Ethereum chart, like there's no way you can even argue at this point. This was a bear market for the past year. A lot of alts topped around March of 2024 and have been in a year-long bear market at this point. So things are changing. The S&P 500 as well. If you go to the S&P 500, usually like the bears were like
Are you doing it on the
2018.
shared tab? Because I'm not seeing it.
I'm looking at the wrong one. I apologize. Let me go over here. Oops. S&P 500. S&P 500 had like the bear market back in 2018, 2022, obviously the pullback in 2020. One of the interesting things too is like everyone expects 2026 to be bad, and that's like the common thing I keep seeing. And a lot of the ideas keep getting front run, right? Like everyone thought 2025 would be a great year, and so far it's been a bad year. Like there's no way, especially for stocks, like this is a bad year so far. But since if you go back to 2008, so in the QE era, which started in 2008, the S&P never has had back-to-back years of 20% pullbacks during this whole time frame. So we had a pullback here in 2020, 2022, 2018, but usually the years whenever we've had these steeper pullbacks, the following year was pretty good. 2019 was good, 2021 was good, 2023 was good. So in this QE era, we've never had back-to-back years. So like, I don't know, maybe the way we approach the markets with new data that's just coming in, right? We're just, we're getting the data that this year so far has been bad for the S&P 500. Maybe we have to consider or start to consider like that maybe 2026 won't be the bad year that everyone expects, just because it hasn't worked out. A lot of things that people have expected have not worked out. And historically now, since the Fed started printing money, we haven't seen back-to-back years of massive pullbacks. It just hasn't happened. So to expect it next year, you're kind of going against the trend or the what has essentially occurred over the past 15 years. If that makes sense.
Well, what happens in the event? Here's one fun thought process. What happens in the event that there is a little bit of a decoupling that's somewhat sustained for the next, let's say, 4 months, 5 months, and Bitcoin is pushing up and the S&P 500 or the traditional markets in general aren't really performing that way. Maybe they're still pulling back or consolidating, not getting a sharp rise. And then maybe towards the end of the year and into 2026, we start seeing the S&P 500 and NASDAQ starting to rip. Does that change, Kevin, does that change your sort of thoughts on what that means for Bitcoin and the potential sustainability of a longer bull market?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the correlation or the lack of correlation, usually Bitcoin is highly correlated on the larger timescales in terms of the directionality. I always have to make that clear because people think it's percentages or something, but Bitcoin's weekly direction with the S&P is very much aligned. Now, we're seeing slight decoupling recently. There's been a few days where the stock market dumps, Bitcoin doesn't, which is great to see. But the thing that matters is that people begin to treat Bitcoin and regard Bitcoin differently. That's the only reason why we would decouple. And gold's narrative might be becoming a bit contagious for the Bitcoin narrative in a good way, a good contagion. Like, okay, this is a safe haven. Bitcoin is digital gold. People think of gold, they see gold going up and they're looking at what other, then they look at silver. But like, what's the alternative there to gold? It's Bitcoin. It has that digital gold narrative. And so gold's performance might have begun some sort of longer term change of behavior of traders and investors. They might be starting to look at it a little bit differently. And that's what actually matters is there's no magical decoupling mechanism. It's just people, traders. Do we look at Bitcoin differently? Are we trading it differently? And gold, seeing this is pretty historic, right? That's a historic rise for gold. I mean, it's surpassing the 2618 from high to low, which was the target in the last run in 2011, right? And now we're exceeding that 2618. Usually there's a diminishing return, and this is actually going beyond. I mean, amazing stuff. And I think that that narrative is so strong that it's going to seep into Bitcoin. And your question was, if Bitcoin is able to run up without the stock market, and then the stock market starts to do really well, is it going to be a double whammy for Bitcoin? Usually in the past, it is a double whammy where if Bitcoin doesn't dump with the stock market and then the stock market starts to do well, it's like a double good situation for Bitcoin. But we'll see. I mean, if Bitcoin is treated more so like gold, then it may not be the super risk on asset, just like gold is not a super risk on asset. So it's like, be careful what you wish for. Do you want it to be digital gold? Are you sure? Or do you like the fact that it's extremely volatile and highly speculative? I think a lot of us do like that, right? But so I think Bitcoin will end up becoming a hybrid. It's not going to be one or the other. I think it's going to be a hybrid of a risk on asset, highly speculative asset, and also this idea of a safe haven, a hedge against inflation, a hedge against optimism. I think the narratives are going to sort of morph and create a very interesting outcome. It's going to be one of the more unique assets in world history, I think. So it's highly leveraged market, which is going to keep the risk on highly volatile aspect going. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, the recent decoupling, it's not really proven yet, but the recent activity that we've seen, it's new data, it's fresh, it's barely gone on for a couple of weeks, so we'll have to see how it goes, right? Maybe Bitcoin's just front running the S&P bounce, which we've seen, as Matthew Hyland pointed out before, as Bitcoin leading dumps and pumps.
Yeah, I hear that. So, man, there's just are you guys excited again? I know even us, we're trying to keep our shit together for our audience, but even us talking in private, we're all like, all right, guys, come on. Is this market, where are we at? It's starting to feel like the bullish claims I've been making the last month or two are starting to feel better substantiated, not so much hope, right?
If it breaks through 89,000 or 92,000, then I definitely think the market's going to feel a lot more confident. I think you're going to see a lot of people like really flip bullish once again if that were to happen. So it's close, but it still has some work to do, right? Don't celebrate too early, right?
Absolutely. Well, guys, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. We're going to wrap this for now. I want to shout out everybody that is over there. If you've been watching over on Rumble, big shout out to you. Make sure you hit that follow button. This is the first stream we've done on this. We have a new partnership with Rumble. They're helping support what we're doing as well. But hit that follow, hit the like button, get in the live comments. Let us know what you're thinking and feeling. If you're watching over on X, we do appreciate you. We got another several hundred or thousand plus. It might be even more than that. Okay, yeah, we got 44,567 on X. Shout out, hit that retweet. If we can get this over, we're on a bunch of platforms now, and this is aggregating all of them. So all of you that are watching, come over to my page over at Kelly Kellam, hit that retweet, hit that like button. We will randomly draw from this later tomorrow. If we get over 45 retweets, we will do $100 value giveaway. Make sure you're following Mr. Kevin Svensson here at Kevin Svensson _. And then just make sure you see that a little longer at Kevin Svensson _. And then, of course, Matthew Highland as well at Matthew Highland _. Always love having these discussions with you fellas. I appreciate you all.
Smash the like button.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, smash the like button. You guys hang around for a second. I'm going to do a little closing thought, and then I'll get on with you in one moment. But thank you for being here, guys.
Thank you, Kelly. I'll see you.
Everybody else, big love to you all. Again, make sure you're hitting those follows on these gentlemen. They have content that they're doing on a number of different platforms and their own paid communities as well, where they're dropping super duper deep alpha. I do want to shout out our channel partners, Arculus. Make sure you head over to getarculus.com. You can use code BitLab20 or BitLab10 if one of those doesn't work. The codes change sometimes for a discount. It's the best crypto cold storage solution you can get. Make sure you're protecting your crypto so you can protect your future. And of course, if you want to trade with us, make sure you head over to L Bank. The link is below the video in the description. It's just go open up right below the video on YouTube. You'll see the link there. There's a bunch of different contests going on right now, but if you register through us, there's a $13,000 USDT cashback giveaways, and all that information is there in that link below. Make sure you trade with us. We got a lot of stuff coming where we're joining everything we're doing with Discover Crypto, Blockchain Basement, and BitLab Academy to have a super group of all kinds of alpha all day long, every day. Big shout out to our partners there. And with that being said, everybody, I really do appreciate you. I love you. I hope you all are trading smart, stacking heavy. Don't over allocate. But there's some fireworks to come. I really do believe it. So make sure you find some magic in your life and you pay into it and you give it all the attention that it deserves. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I'm going to shoot you all over to Sin City Crypto. I'm going to redirect you there now. So if you're watching here on YouTube, it's going to redirect you. If you're watching anywhere else, go find Sin City Crypto. Big love to those guys. We might be doing some streaming from their studio in Vegas at Bitcoin Vegas here in the Bitcoin conference at the second or third week of May, I believe. But shout out to everybody. If you're going to be there, let me know. Comment let me know on Twitter or drop comments here. But I appreciate you. I hope you all have a wonderful day. That's all I got. Thank you all for tuning in, and thank you to the Rumble team and that partnership we got going on over there. Make sure you're following us. We love you. That's all we got. Adios.